So if you don't know, I homeschool my kids. And yesterday we took a little field trip down to the Tennessee Aquarium. And I was listening to the Culture Apothecary podcast, which is a really cool podcast if you don't listen to it. But I was listening to the episode that she had a couple of weeks ago with Sue Becker, which of course you know, I had Sue Becker on my podcast back almost 2 years ago now. And so my son, who was sitting in the front with me, he could not believe that I'd had Sue Becker on my podcast for two reasons. First, because if she's such a big deal, a big enough deal to be on the Culture Apothecary, why would she have been on my little podcast? Gee, thanks, right? But also because of this. This was his question. What does bread have to do with pregnancy? And that got me thinking. It's easy to forget the role of nutrition, bread, whatever the case may be, whatever food you're eating. It's easy to forget the role that nutrition plays, not only in pregnancy, but in life in general. So today I want to give this old topic a little bit new look, a little bit of a review, refresher, and maybe spark some new thought for you. Let's go. Are you a Christian woman yearning for a beautiful, joyful pregnancy and birth with a focus on God, not medical tests? Are you worried the birth you want isn't possible and you're tired of being treated like an accident waiting to happen? Hey Mama, I'm Lori, host of Your Birth God's Way. I'm a certified nurse midwife now, but I wasn't always. After working for nearly 20 years in the broken maternity system, I too was in your shoes wondering how I could have the birth I wanted and that I felt God meant for me to have. I found a secret that has actually been known since the beginning of time. God's way is the best way. Spoiler alert, God made us and our babies, and He knows us best. He designed us perfectly for pregnancy, birth, and nourishing our babies after birth, if we work with His design and not against it. In this podcast, you'll learn how to be healthy and have joy during this time of life that will be over before you know it. So if you're ready to reclaim your birth and your babies for His glory, go turn on a few episodes of Bluey for that little one on your hip so you can put the focus back on you for a few minutes with me. Real quick, it's review time. Today's review comes from Mary James. The title says Pregnancy After Loss. And she left this review before I actually did my most recent episode on miscarriage, so I hope that she was able to listen to that. But the review says, "Hello, Lori. Thank you so much for creating this podcast. It has been such a blessing. I was hoping that we would be able to do an episode on the topic of having pregnancy and going through that after having a miscarriage and just trusting God and your body. My first pregnancy resulted in a miscarriage, and then I had a successful pregnancy that resulted in a perfect baby boy. I also used your birth course during that pregnancy, and it was so helpful and amazing. I'm now currently 7 weeks pregnant and still struggling with the fear of losing this baby due to the first miscarriage. Thank you so much for all your help and wisdom." And thank you, Mary James, for leaving that review. Again, I hope that you were able to listen to the podcast I've done since you left this about miscarriage. It's a very hard topic, and it is full of fear in those subsequent pregnancies that you may have. And so I hope that you are able to find the peace of God. I hope that you're surrounding yourself with people who are positive. I hope you're putting the word in your life every day, because that really is where any peace that you're going to have is going to come from, because it's such a hard process. It's just a lot of waiting and a lot of praying and a lot of hoping. And it's a time that you really have very little control, and that's hard, and I know that. So I hope that that episode helped you, and I thank you for leaving me a review. For those of you who have not left me a review, if you'll just head over to Apple Podcasts, leave me a quick 5-star written review. It helps me so much to find other mamas just like you who need the content that I share, and also helps encourage me. Okay, so today I'm going to say something groundbreaking. I mean, this is just going to blow your mind, right? It really does matter what you eat. You really actually are what you eat. Remember when you're in school and they're like, you are what you eat? Well, it actually is kind of true. The things that you choose to eat are what makes up your body. And if you're pregnant, it also makes up your baby. If you're not pregnant yet, but you want to be, then nutrition matters even more. And you are at a perfect point to be able to set the groundwork, because you almost never, in fact, I would venture to say always, are pregnant. I know I changed that a little bit. You never know that you're pregnant right at the moment you're pregnant. You always don't know. Man, that's all kinds of double negatives. I apologize. I hope you can make some sense of that. Basically, you don't know the moment that you become pregnant. There is always a period of time that you just don't know if you're pregnant yet, right? So if your body stays in a state of nourishment, if you have been feeding your body well, then you have everything in place that that baby is going to need at the point that God starts building it inside of you. God has made your body to use what it needs to grow your baby, and it's going to get what it needs from you. But you have to then replenish your body, or you're going to go without. Beyond that, food is medicine. There are so many nutrients and vitamins and minerals inside of food that your body uses to heal, to repair, to correct anything going on inside of your body that needs to be fixed. It fuels your immune system, and it also gives you the energy you need to be able to do the day-to-day things that you do in your life. Let me just stress this little point of what I'm about to say. You do not have to feel bad. There's a lot of people who feel bad every day. They get sluggish in the afternoon. They just can't quite get through their day without caffeine or something to help them get through. I'm not talking about the feeling bad that you get with the occasional illness or the occasional sickness. I'm talking about just feeling bad. You don't have to feel bad. And feeling bad comes from not feeding your cells well. And it may seem like I've talked about this before, and I have to some degree, but something happened yesterday that made me realize that we really need these reminders, and we really do need refreshing of knowledge. Remember what I said in the introduction, what my son's question was. He said, "What does bread have to do with pregnancy?" I changed it for the title of the podcast to "What does food have to do with pregnancy?" and what does food have to do, what does nutrition have to do with pregnancy? So that it's a little bit broader, but you still get the point. See, if you think you've heard this here before, as much as I talk about nutrition here in this podcast, because it truly is just fundamental to your health and to your baby's health, but as much as you hear about it, you ought to live in my house. My son gets it, or my kids, my girls do too, get this all the time. Day in, day out, they're hearing me preach about nutrition. So if he's hearing me say these things day in and day out, and yet he still had that question, when we talk about this stuff nearly every meal, for sure, every time they start scrounging around the kitchen looking for more snacks, they get constant reminders about how important food choices are and why food matters. And yet, my son didn't get the connection between food and growing a baby. So if he can forget when he has to listen to me every single day, then you might need some reminding too. Now, this isn't going to be all about bread. I've talked about bread a lot here. This episode is not all about bread, but bread is part of it. Because I had this other kind of a mind-blowing moment as we were in the car. As we were listening to that podcast, and Sue is talking about how little she had to take her kids to the doctor. I can't remember exactly. I think she had 9 kids. I know she had a lot of kids. I don't remember the exact number. But she said that after they started having real bread in their daily diet, that she only had to go to the doctor twice with her children. That's cumulative, not like twice per child, but like twice total. So 2 times out of however many collective years of child rearing that was, more than 20 years. And it hit me like a ton of bricks at that moment. You see, the last few months, my kids have had more sickness than we've had in a long time, maybe ever. It wasn't bad sickness necessarily, but it just seemed like that they would pop fevers, just kind of out of nowhere. And my son even got something that was either strep or like strep. His tonsils are still swollen now a couple weeks later. And we've never had strep at all in our household. We've never had ear infections. We've never had any of those things in our house, in our kids. And yet here it seems like in the last, couple months, it's just kind of constant. There's always seems like something going on. And then it dawned on me that ever since I found out that I was pre-diabetic back in October, November, which I shared with you all here on the podcast, I haven't been making as much bread. because I was trying to kind of figure out how it would fit into my world with my blood sugar being as it was. And I've learned to make sourdough, but the kids don't like it as much. And so having cut back in bread on bread, making bread, which is one of the most nourishing sources of food that we have in our household, we've now been dealing with more sickness and more feeling bad. And it just makes sense. I mean, imagine that. I cut back on the food that had the most nutrients of probably anything that they had in their diets. And that had all but stopped because I was trying to figure out what to do about my health. Okay. And my health came from years, as I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I mean, decades of bad choices. And here I am building them with better nutrients and better building blocks than I ever had. And I missed out on something really important. Despite the fact that I'm immersed in this, despite the fact that I believe in this and I teach you guys to do this, despite all of that, somehow I let myself cut back on the thing that was putting the most nourishment into my children. It's just so easy to get sidetracked and it can happen so fast, even when you're the one teaching about it. Life happens, you get distracted, you start thinking about other things, and before you know it, your health is slipping. So I want to dig in a little deeper today and apply this to you as a mom who may be pregnant, maybe you're postpartum, maybe you're breastfeeding, or maybe you're just trying to conceive. Maybe you're hoping to get pregnant. I want to remind you that there is nothing really that matters more than what you're eating. There's a lot of things that matter, but I don't know that there's anything that matters more. I also want to remind you that I go into a huge amount of detail on this topic. So if you are pregnant, if you are trying to conceive, or if you're postpartum breastfeeding, I go into a huge amount of detail on this topic in my course. In a podcast episode, it's short. I don't really have the opportunity to go all that deep. I can't flesh it all out the way that I do in that course. I go deep. There is a full 2+ hour course or a module in the course on nutrition, so you understand it fully and thoroughly and you're able to apply it to your daily life while you're pregnant. So with that in mind, let's think about why do we even eat? Why do we eat? Well, we know that we eat because we'll die if we don't, right? That's pretty basic, pretty fundamental. But why is that? And if we do eat, will we still die? Is it still gonna, if we do eat, will we not die? And I say that because eating alone is not good enough. Eating alone can either nourish you or it can malnourish you because it matters so much about what you eat. And I think as a culture that we have gotten to the point where we look at eating as just putting something into a container, filling an empty container. And it doesn't really matter what we put in there. But eating isn't just filling a container. In fact, I would argue eating is not about filling a container at all. Eating is feeding cells what they need to function and grow well. In Isaiah chapter 55, verse 2, the Bible reads, "Why do you spend money for what is not bread, and your wages for what does not satisfy? Listen listen carefully to me and eat what is good, and let your soul delight itself in abundance." Think about that. Why do you spend your money for that which is not bread? Well, our culture tells us that bread is awful for you, right? That it's going to make you sick. And the bread that you buy at the store will. But real bread, the kind of bread that they were eating in Bible times, it was nourishing. It was whole. It gave your body what you needed to function. A lot of times it was the only food that was available. And so this verse reminds us, why are you spending your money on junk, basically? And why are you spending money on things that aren't going to satisfy you, aren't going to fill you? Not fill that empty container, but nourish your body so that you are satisfied. Eat what is good. And what is going to be good other than what God gives us, because everything that's good comes from God, right? So you really have to start to dig into the things that you're putting in your grocery cart or you're putting in your cart online and really think deeply about how is this feeding my body, not just filling an empty container, but how is it nourishing me? How is it nourishing my baby? How is it nourishing my family? And if you haven't already, I ask you, why have you not gotten this book yet? I've got several books I want to show you today, but this book right here, and if you're watching on YouTube, which I hope you are, by the way, if you have a YouTube account, if you watch YouTube at all, head over there and subscribe to my channel. That way these videos do pop up. I do put almost every video now, or excuse me, almost every podcast now on YouTube in video format so that you can actually watch it if you want to. It's also there in audio format, but you can still listen on your podcast app. Still do that. I'm just saying that some people really like watching, seeing the person talking to you, and here I am in all my glory. You get me with the hair up, not fixed, all that kind of stuff. This ain't nothing professional. That's all fine and good. It's about the content. Overlook the package that brings it to you. At any rate, if you haven't gotten this book yet, I'm going to have a link down in the description. You must get this book, and don't get it at the library. I know that sounds crazy. Don't get it at the library. Don't get it on Kindle. Don't get it on any of those places. This is actually a second copy I have that I'm just keeping for whoever it is that I end up giving it to. My actual copy at home has all kinds of flags and highlights and all kinds of stuff because this is a reference book. This is something you're going to go back to over and over. And this book is all about, it's not good energy like, kind of woo-woo, foo-foo, that kind of a weird energy that some of y'all are probably thinking, well, that doesn't sound like, anything I read about in the Bible. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actual energy. This is talking about the energy that you give your cells, metabolic energy. That's what this whole book is about, written by a physician. And it is excellent. This is better and more nutritional education than any doctor is getting in any medical school in any school in the country these days, unless it's some kind of a naturopathic or holistic school. This book will change your life. And this book will help you to do what I'm talking about here, which is nourish your cells well. Your body is made up of millions, maybe billions of cells. I don't know the exact count, but lots and lots of cells. And each one of those cells needs nourishment. It needs to eat. Now, it doesn't have a mouth to where it's eating like that, but your body takes the nourishment that you give it through food and takes those nutrients to the cells so that they can continue. If you're pregnant, you also have the cells of your baby, which are dividing rapidly and are specializing, and they all need the right energy to do what God made them to do. If you look at food, at eating as just filling a container with whatever you can find, then your body is going to be continually searching for those nutrients that it expects to be in your food. And when it can't find those nutrients in that food, or if you can even call it food, in the things that you're eating, when it can't find those nutrients, it's going to send your brain a hunger cue, which is going to tell you that you need to eat some more, even if you just ate. This is how you end up overweight but undernourished, because you are eating food or some semblance of something that might look a little bit like food, but the food you're eating is depleted of nutrition. And the nutrition that your body needs, it can't find. And so you have to eat more and more. And yet you're still not actually feeding your cells. You're just filling a container with junk. Okay? When you fill that container, though, with high quality foods, with foods that God gave us, whole, real foods that God gave us, the stuff that He designed for us to eat, the stuff that He designed ourselves to be able to use, then you nourish your cells efficiently. The beauty of real bread, like we talked about in episodes 23 through 26, is that there's a lot of nutrition. And so a little bit goes a long way. And beyond that, you're also getting a whole lot of fiber. So your body digests it slower. So it keeps you full longer. And some people worry that they're going to gain weight by eating bread, but really that doesn't happen when you eat real bread, because you end up eating less, again, because of that high fiber content that makes the digestion slower and it makes your body hang on to that food longer. And meanwhile, the bread has carbs, protein, and healthy fat in it. So it's got everything in it, almost everything in it that your body needs nutritionally each day. There's only four things that aren't there, four nutrients that aren't there. And if you want to learn more about that, go back and listen to episodes 23 through 26, because that's where Sue goes into the things that might be a little bit low and where you can get those things from. Everything that you eat, everything that you ever put in your mouth to eat, you need to be thinking, which of my body's needs is this filling? Which, nutrients that I need each day am I taking care of with this food choice? If the answer to that question is none, there's nothing that I'm meeting, no needs I'm meeting here, then why are you eating it? It's just empty, dead food. And again, I have trouble calling some of this stuff food, because food is nourishing. And if it doesn't nourish you, how is it food? It's just empty and it's dead, and it will fatten you without nourishing you. Proverbs 23, 1 through 3 says, when you sit down to eat with a ruler, consider carefully what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you are a man given to appetite. Do not desire his delicacies, the ruler's delicacies, for they are deceptive food. Deceptive food. Is that not what our world is filled with? See, back in these times, the only people that had these breads and these cakes and things like that are everywhere in our culture now were rulers, because they had the means to pay people to do these things, to make all these fluffy, nice, delicious delicacies, as they call it. They had people who would mill their wheat for them and then sift out the bran and germ so that it made this nice fluffy bread that is now everywhere for us, right? The poor people still had to mill their own grain, and they were getting all of that nutrition. So they were actually doing better and were healthier than some of the rulers were. That's why in some of these old paintings and stuff you see of the kings and queens, they were big. They were much more overweight than you would have expected, because they were, in many cases, eating the way that we're eating now, and their bodies were reacting the same way that our bodies react now. But see, now we can have these delicacies no matter who we are, because they're everywhere. And in fact, everybody eats them. In fact, the cheaper food is actually these delicacies now. Nobody, and when I say nobody, I know there are people, but most people are not milling their own grain, and they're not getting the full whole nutrition. They're getting the part of the grain that will only pack on the pounds without getting the nutrition, and thus they are malnourishing themselves. They are deceptive food. And back then, this verse was reminding these people, don't eat with kings and get all caught up in all the things that look so great and taste so good, because they are deceptive and they're going to make you sick. You would think that the kings had what was best, and so because they had what was best, that everybody would desire it, but there was just no gain there. It was just the good tasting stuff, and they weren't getting the nourishment. And yet the poor people, the ones who were working for them, they were still having to mill their own, and they were getting the good stuff. And so that tells you right now what we need to be doing. We need to get off of these conveniences, because see, now we have all these conveniences available. And look at the price we're paying with our health by having the delicacies that only the kings had then. Think about that. Convenience is always a trade-off, always. When you get something easier, there's always a cost. What is that cost? I watched a video the other day about microwaves, and I know this isn't a video about microwaves at all, but you have to admit that microwaves make heating up food incredibly convenient, very fast, right? And so this video was talking about microwaves, and I sent it to my sister because it talked about how microwaves impact even water. And I thought about it because she was at my house a week or two ago, and she was using it to heat up the water for the formula that her baby was eating. And the video went into how an experiment was done on plants. And what the experiment did was it took water and it heated, and in one experimental group, they took the water and they heated it up in their microwave, let it cool back down, and then they watered plants with either water that had been or had not been microwaved. Okay. And the plants that were watered with the water that had been microwaved died. Something was happening inside of that microwave with the radiation and everything that happens in there, and it was impacting that water. And my sister's response is classic. It's probably what most of you would say, but yeah, but it's so convenient. And it is. It's so convenient. But it's a trade-off. Because in exchange for getting things heated up faster, you're having an impact on some level to the nutrition or the molecular makeup of what you're putting in that microwave. Going through a drive-through is convenient, but it's a trade-off. You're giving up whole food nutrition for a quick, easy meal, and you're giving up your hard-earned money to do it. You're saving time now, but you'll likely lose that time in the future when it catches up with you and you get sick. It's all a trade-off. What you eat matters. It will make or break your pregnancy. How you eat matters. It will make or break your health in general for your whole life. Nutrition, in addition to all this, nutrition plays a huge role in preventing things like preeclampsia. And preeclampsia is one of the biggest birth plan busters out there. So if you spend time and effort and money focusing on what your body needs, giving your body high quality protein, high quality calories, hydration, the right kind of salt, all these things in the right balance, you will likely be able to prevent preeclampsia. But if you don't, you may end up paying, if you don't take that time and that energy and that effort and maybe expense to nourish your body well, you may end up paying with having a birth unlike what you dreamed because you have to give up your birth plan. It's a trade-off. Buying nourishing food might be more expensive than some other foods. But what you spend now will be saved in the future when you're not spending time and money in the doctor's office or the hospital because you're healthy, when others are dealing with chronic illness from metabolic dysfunction. Also, when you eat real food, you need less food. I know I made reference to this earlier, but when you are giving your body nourishment in everything that you eat, your body finds those nutrients it's looking for, and it doesn't have to send that hunger signal back to your brain telling you to eat more. So while the food might cost a little bit more, per pound or per whatever, you actually end up needing less because your body's getting what it needs from smaller quantities of food. So just keep that in mind. And I could go on this topic, but I think you get the idea. So here's what I want you to do. Today, I want you to resolve to make the decision and stick with it that you're going to start prioritizing real nutrition and you're going to stop compromising. And this is not going to be easy because you're going to forget. Life is going to happen. You're going to be like me when I forgot that I needed to keep making bread for my kids. You're going to forget. So I need you to write reminders on your mirrors, put reminders maybe every month on your phone, on your computer, wherever you look frequently, and keep reminding yourself that what you eat matters today and for years down the road. It's worth the time, it's worth the money, it's worth the effort to nourish your cells well. The sickness of your 40s and 50s starts with your lifestyle choices in your 20s and 30s and even teens. The decisions you're making now are starting a lifestyle of health for the baby inside of you that hasn't even breathed the first breath of air yet. You are changing her future or his future by the choices you're making now, and you're changing your future as well. So that in your older years, you're up and able to go do things with that child that's not even born yet. When that child is an adult, you'll feel like being up and out and going and doing things with her or him and the kids that they now have. See, this stuff is big. This stuff impacts you. It's more than just a meal here or there. This is a lifestyle, and it is what makes life worth living. It makes life enjoyable. You're not sick, you're not hurting, you're not miserable. You're happy and you're healthy and you're living the way that God designed your body to live, because your body will function if you will nourish it properly. Okay, couple books. I already mentioned the good energy book, and I want you to write these down or just go down to the show notes. But these are excellent and they are going to help you. I've already mentioned Good Energy. This is by Casey Means. Excellent book, excellent book, excellent book. Can't recommend it enough. Get this book. Don't just check this out. These other ones you might just be able to check out. That one you just got to. This book is actually a little bit harder to find. I found it actually at my library, and then I think I bought it on Thrift Books or something like that. But it's called 100 Best Foods for Pregnancy. This is a good book because every food, like here's, for example, I'll turn to the parsley page, an herb page. It talks about what parsley is, what nutrients it's high in, how it helps, like how it functions basically as medicine in your body. Practical tips for how to use it. It gives you a recipe for how to use it. And then over here, major nutrients per, in this case, 15 grams of parsley. And you can't see it, but then you've got a breakdown of it. Let me find another page, for example, cheddar cheese. Who doesn't like cheese? Here's a page on cheese. So this book breaks down 100 foods, what's in them, how to find them, what nutrients they're high in, how it supports your health, and basically how it works as medicine in your body. Get this one. If you can't find it, and I'll put this link down also, if you can't find it on Amazon or something, paragon.com/lovefood is what's on the back of it. Then, back on, let's see, I wrote it down, episode 93, I had Lily Nichols on the show. Lily Nichols is a registered dietitian, and she is an excellent source. She doesn't agree with everything about the grains, but I really believe the reason she doesn't agree about the grains is because she's still looking at conventional wheat, not at whole wheat, the way that God intended it to be, where it's freshly milled. I think that's where the hang up is. But she has 3 different books out. I've only got 2 of them here. Real Food for Pregnancy. Excellent book. This one is probably one you'll end up marking up to, but maybe not. It just kind of depends on how much you want to dig into it. But it's pretty small print. It is full of research. She has done a very, very, very good job. So this is one of her books. They're very pretty too, and they feel good. They've got the kind of cover that feels good. Then you've got Real Food for Fertility. This is for those of you who are wanting to have a baby and haven't. This book's bigger than the other one, and it goes into some of the causes of infertility, and then also just how to make sure that your body is well nourished when you do have a baby. And then the other book that I don't have here that you would likely benefit from, even if you've never had gestational diabetes, even if you don't think you're high risk for gestational diabetes, this book is a good book for preventing it and then also treating it, is Real Food for Gestational Diabetes. So I'll put links to all that. Again, those are all Lily Nichols. These books are all excellent, and you're going to learn so much. If you're looking for a more comprehensive look at nutrition for pregnancy, for breastfeeding, for postpartum, for preconception, before you even are pregnant, you're going to get that along with a complete childbirth education and labor preparation class when you join the Your Birth God's Way online Christian childbirth education course. You can learn more about what's all in there, the plethora of information that I cover. You can learn all about it if you go to go.yourbirthgodsway.com/CEC. You can also sign up there. Or if you want to try it out and just kind of see what you think about it, see if you like my style and all that kind of stuff, you can go to go.yourbirthgodsway.com/course free trial. Everybody who joins is invited to a monthly live question and answer session with me. So you are not alone in this process. If you have questions that come up during the course, you've got me to ask. It's really a great course. And I don't just say that just because I made it. I say that because I know, as a midwife who's worked as a nurse and a midwife, both on the medical side and on the natural side, I know what you need to know to really have the successful birth that you want to have. And I have intentionally put it all into this course. I mean, everything. But if there's something that you have that rises above that you have questions about, you've got me to ask the questions to live. You'll learn far more. You'll learn far, far more than you're going to learn from the other courses out there because of the extensive balance to the experience that I have, not only working in it, but then also having my babies naturally. I've kind of seen it from every angle you can pretty much see it from, and it's all inside of that course. You're going to be exceedingly prepared for your birth, no matter where it happens, no matter how it happens, and you're going to understand thoroughly how nutrition plays into the whole picture in the most holistic way possible. So I hope you'll join me over there, and I'll see you right back here next week.
Real quick, if today's episode blessed you in any way, would you head over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a quick 5-star written review? It'll take you less than a minute, but it's the best thank you can give me, and it will help my show to reach more mamas just like you, so we can all find God's best for our families. I'll see you right back here in a few days.